Welcome to Real Deep Stuff. We've saved your seat at the table for this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Hey everybody, welcome back to Real Deep Stuff. This is Kristi and
Michelle.
Yay! We are back home. So I'm in North Carolina. You are not.
Nope, I'm in Texas.
So we are doing this via phone, which is how we did it all the way through on the Camino. And we're just so excited to have like a reunion show, watching some survivor shows, or if anyone's seen any type of like reality TV, it's really cool when it's all over. And then they have like that reunion where they come back on and you hear like behind the scenes and what's happening now. So we just thought it would be a really fun thing to do to have like a recap show once the jet lag has worn off and we're kind of back in the grind. But like you were saying a minute ago offline, like we got to do this before all the details slip away because daily life gets it front and center of our brains. So also it's so funny, since we've been home, I keep dreaming that I'm still there. I wake up completely out of my mind, confused. Like if I get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or just in the morning to get up, I can't figure. We stayed in so many places. It's like my mind has created this false room of a mashup of all of them. I can't figure anything out. I was just like, what is happening? And I literally have to be like, okay, no, I'm back in America. Okay, I'm back in my house. And I look up, I'm like, oh, I'm in my bedroom. Have you had that happen?
Maybe the first couple nights when I was home, I'd wake up at night and like, oh, okay, where do I go? But other than that, no. You must just be a deeper sleeper than me.
That or my mind never knows how to turn off. As long as we can find the bathroom, it's all good. Because every night was a different floor plan of where we stayed. Oh my goodness. Well, we wanted to do two things today, and we do have limited time, so we want to get to it. First, we want to talk about our time in Portugal and how cool that was. And that was our big surprise. After I think the last day 9 of the Camino, we were like, stay tuned for where we go next. And so that's where we went. I want to talk a little bit about that and then jump back to the Camino and just kind of get into some questions about self-reflection, about the Camino, all that it was and all that it was to us. So I guess if we jump in to Portugal, so if we leave Santiago, Spain, we took some fun transportation down to Portugal. You want to tell them about that?
We took the bus and, I don't think I've ever ridden a bus anywhere before. So, we got on the first bus, then they told us to get off and get on the other bus.
Go
And
get our luggage.
yep. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad ride. I mean, I guess we both might have slept a little. So, yeah.
Oh, we were catching flies. There's pictures to prove it. At least of me, there is. I was like, that's what I look like when I fall asleep in a vehicle. I look dead. I look totally dead. But this new bus it was nicer. It had the little drop down thing to put your feet up on, like a little footrest. That was cool.
Yeah, it was much nicer than the first one we were on. So,
Yeah, and it had a bathroom on board, which the first one didn't. And I found it just sadistically amusing to watch people try to figure out they needed to pay to unlock the door. I don't know why I thought that was funny, but watching these women try to break into the bathroom before they realized that they needed to pay was, I don't know, slightly amusing. I think I was very sleep deprived at that moment.
well,
But
then I saw someone, they jumped in like before the door could close, so they didn't have to pay.
oh, yep, they beat the system on that 50 cents, man. Because I think they were traveling together, so they were like tag team. But what we found interesting was that there was absolutely no announcement or signs or anything that we'd reached a stop, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's like, so if you're sleeping and you sleep through the stop and that was your stop, too bad.
You are hosed. You are going to the next stop. It was fascinating because like the driver only jumped out to take like a smoke break and like barely gave people enough time to like, hair on fire, run off the bus and get their stuff. It was the quickest bus stops ever. You would just, and all the bus stations to me from inside the bus look the same. So it's like you pull in, you're stopped for about 30 seconds and then you pull out again. And we were like, you and I are like looking on Google Maps and stuff. We're like, where are we? Was this our stop? What is this? What is happening? And yeah, people asleep like me. Oh my gosh, I don't know where I would have wound up, honestly. So I was kind of afraid to go to sleep after that, but that was different. We've just never had it where there was zero communication in any way about what stop you were at. You just had to know what you were doing. And we never been to Portugal, so but anyway, we
No,
made it. No, no, but we made it. We made it to Porto. Would you like to share first your thoughts on this city?
I just absolutely loved Porto. There was everyone was so friendly. It was, it looks like a very, very large city, but everyone kept saying it's not. It's because of the hills. But
Mhm.
I still think it's bigger than they think it is, but who knows?
I agree with you. It was just like hills of buildings and homes, and it seemed to go past the horizon line. It looked big to me too. And what a charming old world city. Oh my goodness. You and I, we were just vibing with it big time. I found it to be quaint and friendly, English friendly, easy to navigate with, your Apple or Google Maps. And the prices on everything were really good too.
Oh, it was very reasonable there. You go buy a bottle of water and you can get like this huge bottle of water that it's like 89 cents. You can't do that here.
I paid in the Philadelphia airport, I paid $3.29 for a single little bottle of water. And there they were like liters that ranged from like 33 cents to 89 cents. It was insane. And it was mineral water too, not like purified drinking water. So it was everything, all the snacks we bought and everything was just, I felt the prices were very good.
Oh,
But
and the
it,
coffee. You get a
yeah.
really good cup of coffee. It was less than $2. Well, you go to any coffee shop here for that same size, they're going to charge you 4 or 5.
Coffee habit was right on cue. You did not have to sacrifice, which I was very happy for you about. I think if I were to ask for decaf, they'd be like, "What is that?" So I didn't even
Well, I
bother.
did try to get you decaf in one of the airports, and they just look at me like, no.
Decaf is not coffee. So I understand I'm subpar in the coffee category, but I'm glad you got your cafe con leche, whatever you wanted it. That was awesome. And we found out in Portugal that from one of our tour guides that they mandatory teach English from grades 4 to 9 in addition to what other languages. So it's incredibly easy to communicate with everybody over there because they all know English, which was awesome.
And you can tell because I that didn't start. I forgot what year that started. So if you see someone that's a lot older, you can tell that wasn't the case with them because there was a language barrier.
One of our tour guides talked about the history of Portugal and how education came in a later point in the history, and how, yes, the older generations didn't have that advantage of learning to read and write and all of that. So you're perfectly right about that. I found Porto to be just an amazing community city. Don't you love how they all come out at night and they all gather at the bridge with or along the water with their wine and they all watch the sunset together. It's like everybody everywhere, wherever they
Hmm.
are in Porto, everybody stops to go see the sunset. And I just I just felt like people are very chill. They like to have a good time. They don't take life too seriously. Like it was a fun city and I did not get enough.
No, we did not have enough time because the one day we took the tour that was out of the city. So really, we just had, I think our time combined, I don't even know if we had a real full day in Porto. So,
That even finding the local laundromat to do laundry
yes.
which was an escapade on my part because I'm machine challenged. But anyway, it all got done. Not all of it got dry, but it all got clean. So anyway, yeah, that was such a fun time. And contrasting that to Lisbon, what would you say about Lisbon?
Lisbon was, I mean, it still had beautiful buildings with all the tile and lots of history, but the vibe was totally different. It was just a hustling, bustling city.
First thing I noticed that you were quiet when we got out of the because we took a train from Porto to Lisbon. We took high speed train. That was like the longest train ride of my life.
I
It
think the
was
bus
just
was nicer than the train.
way nicer than the train. We just kind of sat there looking at our watches like how much longer. I mean, we're not really sure it was high speed. It didn't seem that way, but yeah, and we had a guy sitting across from us that was super sick, so we're trying not to breathe that air. And yeah, suitcases would fall down, and if we took a turn and overhead, you just think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be decapitated on this thing. And just everything, it was just, it was, it wasn't the nicest train ride I've ever been on. But we got there, and I noticed first off, once we jumped into the taxi and then started heading toward the hotel, that you were pretty quiet. And I thought, I wonder why she's quiet. She's taking it all in. And then it turns out you started asking me questions like, so what do you think of this city? And I was like, oh, I think we're thinking the same thing. And I mean, Lisbon is just, it's like the big sister, and Porto's like the little sister. And it's like Lisbon was this big little New York City. And just,
Well, yeah, even when you get at the train station, that was just a little overwhelming. And the
it was.
process to get the taxi, I mean, we asked one guy, no, go to the other guy. And then we tried to avoid the one guy. So we went to someone behind him, no, go to that guy.
Because I was breaking all the taxi rules and I did not know taxi etiquette. And I understand why they want to do it their way, but I'm sorry. I just got total creepy vibes from this one driver. And I was like, I'm not, wild horses couldn't get me in this cab. And he was the one we were supposed to get in because he was the first one to pull out. I get that. But yeah, so I just kept getting yelled at when I kept going to other taxis. And finally, I just threw my stuff in one. I'm like, thanks, we're going to take this one. Just, I think they were all mad at me at that point.
Get her
But I
out.
did just get these women out of my life. And then he got lost. He never heard where we were going, and I wound up having to give him my phone with directions. And I'm like, oh, I don't want you to have my phone. But anyway, we wound up getting there after a massive U-turn, and I'm watching the meter just tick up and up. I'm like, awesome, but it's okay. But I found the town to be quite dirty, and a lot of it, like the sidewalks, the streets, all that, you really want to watch kind of where you're stepping. And it was very crowded with tourists. Like, I think that's where like cruise ships come, because they have these amazing points of interest, like the big monastery, and what is it called, the Monument of Discoveries, and the Bellum Tower, or Belém, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. All these incredible things to see, but that draws incredible amounts of people. And like just
Yes.
hordes of people with lanyards following someone with a flag. And you and I are looking at each other like, this is not Porto. And
Nope.
we did participate and saw those points of interest. Some we didn't choose to wait in the hour-long line for, because we were happy to see it from the outside. I would say Lisbon is really good for water activities. If someone wants to take like a sunset cruise or a catamaran to go see a cave or something like that, that's really great. And I found it to be really easy to navigate once we got our bearings. So you and I at some point were like, have we gone down the same street twice yet? But then after being there for like 4 days, it was a much longer time. We kind of had our landmarks and we're like, okay, I think we know where we're going. So I don't know. I'm mixed on Lisbon. I think if I had to pick one city of the two, it hands down would be Porto. How do you feel about that?
Same. Yes, same.
Yeah,
Because
I
there's
think
even towns outside of Porto that I still want to see that looked very interesting. So, yeah.
yeah, we kind of got a sample of those with some of our with a day tour that we took, and the tuk tuk tour that we took. They kind of drove us a little bit on the outskirts, and they were like the baby sisters of Porto. And yeah, it definitely left me wanting more. So I found Portugal to be a very cool place with deep, interesting history. The people are very nice. They love their country. I found them to be patriotic. I really enjoyed being there. I felt very, very safe, very safe.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I told Bart, I was like, there's not one time there that I felt unsafe. There's certain times where I held my bag a little closer, but pickpocketers, you're going to have that anywhere. So,
I think you and I just took the towns by storm, and it's Portugal, somewhere I've always wanted to go. Not sure why, just it always sounded so interesting to me, and couldn't have asked for a better partner in crime to do that with, and loved both, and just want to go back. I just want to go back and spend more time and
and
exploring
we
all
tried
of it.
some of their local foods. We
Yes.
still didn't do the octopus. That just,
Was not on our menu. It was never going to be.
but
But
those
you.
pastel de natas,
Mhm.
those were amazing. The codfish cakes, that was still
Yeah.
interesting.
Mashing up mashed potatoes and fish together. I would have, and then deep frying it. I just never would have thought of that. I told you, I was like, this is like a gourmet fish stick. Like,
Just needed ketchup maybe or something.
yeah, lemon squeeze, something like that. They were very, very good. It's funny, the first night we ate them, you and I were like ravenous, and we just like ate it in one giant bite. And then the second night, we're like, we're gonna go back and get more. So we got two because they're kind of small. And we were both like, okay, maybe two was too much.
Yeah. We're like,
But
we're gonna have these every night. And then nope.
because they were cheap. It was a cheap dinner, and it was local. We're like, oh, immersion. And then we both, I have a low threshold for seafood, and so I enjoyed it. But I was good after the second one. So, but yeah, that the pastel de natas, you just really liked those, and I really liked their gelato. I think they did that first class. It was really good.
Yes, I liked both, so I had both every day.
And I have sometimes had gelato twice a day. We walked it off. We were good. Because we walked everywhere, and we thought, oh gosh, once we leave the Camino, our rings on our watch are going to be yelling at us. But man, we had no problem closing our rings, even in just walking
No.
around. Mm-mm. And the
Mine keeps
hills.
talking to me since I've been back.
There's been a change in your trends, right?
Yep.
I know I've been at home going, well, dang it, how am I going to make this keep up this pace? I don't know. And yeah, it's funny. So yeah, we could probably just talk forever about Portugal because it was such a beautiful country, and cannot wait to go back. Highly, highly recommend. With If we switch over, just out of respect for time, if we switch over to the Camino, what would be some packing things, opinions on packing? Like, what did we think was necessary or unnecessary? I know for me that at the last minute, I found this amazing memory foam neck pillow at Walmart, and I'm not one to need a lot of extras on a plane, but I thought, oh, it's so squishy and soft. You can wash the cover. We're taking an overnight flight. I should bring that. Well, the 20 minutes I wore it on the overnight flight, and then I basically drug it all around Europe. Like it was the biggest waste. And then it took up, because it's, foam and fluffy, it took up this precious real estate in my suitcase. So that, if I wasn't so cheap and could just throw $12 away, I would have just thrown it away. but I drug that thing all over, with the whole Camino through Portugal. So I would definitely not bring any like plain extras. That was ridiculous. What's something you wouldn't bring?
The sleep liner that I bought, I did
That
not
I
use
told you
that.
to bring. I'm sorry.
I probably should have used it one of those times, but I didn't.
Okay, well, in my defense, having gone the way our family typically goes overseas is it's to very buggy places, and very how shall I say, it's for service work, and you want to have a barrier between you and whatever might crawl in your bed that night. So these, like, basically it's a sleeping bag made of sheets, and you put it under the covers, and that way nothing's going to crawl on you. But what we found, we didn't know that Spain and Portugal, that they're just not buggy at all.
No, not like Spain had all those flies, but I think that's because we were in the countryside.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was my wreck, but that's because that's all I knew. Had no idea. Maybe next time I go to a new country, I'm going to Google search specifically how buggy it is. Because I was delightfully surprised that I only saw like a couple of black ants in the country and some flies. That's it. No mosquitoes, no, no, talk about those roaches, nothing. Even in the like Lisbon was a big city. I didn't see one bug like ever. It's almost weird. Like we didn't even see a squirrel on the Camino. So wildlife, big or small, is not super there. So okay. So your sleeping thing. Um, what else? I brought too many. I am known, and my friends and family make fun of me for bringing too many preventive medicines. I am highly sensitive to a lot of stuff, so I wanted to make sure I brought what I knew would work for me. And I had just gotten over being sick for a month from catching something from the guy behind me in church, and I was literally sick for a month, and I don't ever get sick. I hadn't been sick. I haven't even had COVID. Like I hadn't been sick in years, and I had just gotten over that and I was a little bit like paranoid. So I'm like, I'm bringing all my homeopathic stuff and wound up not even touching that. So I guess maybe next time I would take half of what I thought I needed for that. Yeah. Because I still want to bring something, but I didn't need to bring all that. It was overkill. Anything else that you would not bring or definitely bring again?
I mean, I used most of my stuff. I mean, it took almost to the end to get rid of it, but still didn't prevent me from buying an extra piece of luggage to get everything home. But I would,
Oh, you did. You had to bring. I forget that when we were in Philly and we had to get our luggage back. This is an international flight. I forgot that you had a whole second piece of luggage, but that's fine.
so next time I would definitely bring a mid-size luggage and check it because I think the process went well as long as you have a long enough connection. Um, but I would, in my carry-on, I would pack enough stuff to get me through like a day or two in the event the luggage got lost.
Trying to be pseudo those backpackers through Europe and doing carry on, just to because we knew it'd be transferred over with the Camino like 10 times and then it'd be all on us in Portugal and we didn't want to lug around 50-pound suitcases. So we were really trying to packed tightly. But when before we even left the States and they checked my carry on, I was like, oh, well, if you were going to check it, I could have brought a bigger one and not shoved and crammed and broken things to get them in there. So, I mean, we were gone 3 weeks, so that is not nothing. You had to bring a certain amount of stuff to get you that far. So, yeah, we've talked about that, like bringing, same carry on and then like checking a medium bag would have been just less stressful. I have a picture of you in one of the albergues sitting on your suitcase with your feet pinned to the wall trying to zip it. and,
Yeah.
and that's before souvenir shopping. That's before any of that. That I came out of the bathroom and turned the corner and I just busted out laughing at you, bouncing up and down on the bed trying to get this thing to close. That was awesome. So yeah, I think my amount of clothes was good. Of course, with a medium sized suitcase, I could have put one more outfit in there to just to get me not having to use the local laundromat so much. I didn't mind using them, but it was like what, like $9-10 a time that we went, and then we had to go like 4 times because we were trying to not be divas and bring a different outfit for every day. But
Well, that
that
one
left us.
time we did have someone do our laundry for €5.
Was that a bargain? Was that
I
good?
think they washed it in like lake water or something.
We were on one of the Camino places and we thought, golly, €5 is nothing to wash and dry. And it came back folded. No one ever folds my laundry. I don't fold my laundry. Like it came back so beautiful, but I pulled out one of my shirts that was white and I showed you. I was like, what is all over this? I didn't roll in the mud when I wore this. Why is there brown all over this? And so I was like, oh, we gotta go. So I just threw it in. And when we got to our next place, I filled the bathroom sink with water and I started like dunking it, and the water just turned brown. And we were just like, what happened to our laundry? And we wound up rewashing all of it in the self-serve laundromat there in Porto. Ugh, ugh. I don't know what they did to it. They just ran it through the grass or something. I don't know, but not super worth it. But at the time, we were very grateful because we're like, yay, we didn't have to do it. It was cheap. And there's a saying that I always say is not every sale's a bargain and there's a cost to everything. So that cheap load was gross. So she used hand soap to wash it. And then I remember telling you after I washed the shirt, I said, I think this shirt is the cleanest thing in our entire laundry between the two of us right now.
Yep.
So live and learn, But so that's good things for packing. The only other thing I was going to mention with packing was preloading digital things. Like you and I download well, we tried hard to download Camino apps, but we also downloaded like books and podcasts and all these things that we would have that I thought I'd be using on the Camino, but I actually wound up using them more like on the bus ride or the train ride or the 4 hour layovers or something like that. So I think having all that when you're home and you can think about things and you're not like in the moment, frazzled by everything, just having things ready does that self-soothing, like, time fillers when you need them. I think that's a good thing to do before you have it, like getting your international call plan all set up and all that stuff. Like doing the due diligence digitally, I think really paid off for both of us.
And having a couple backup chargers is really good too.
Very good. Because there was some days we were like, how in the world are we on like 20%? And then the panic starts. It's like, oh no, what if, we need access to a phone.
And then
Just for
one day my
safety.
watch died. The battery ran out.
I don't think they've made like a super good portable one for that
Oh,
yet.
but I
I don't
have
know.
one. I just didn't bring it that day.
So I was no help to you, sorry. Yeah, I think you had brought two chargers. Oh, and we brought the Go Girls, the little portable potty things, and
Yep, didn't use it.
I remember the day because every day we had our backpack and our carry-on that the transfer service would take for us, but then we had like a day pack that we would just have like our bottle of water and our snacks and toilet paper if wherever we happened upon didn't have any, that kind of thing. And I remember the day that well we started like reevaluating every ounce that was in our day packs, like how, because you're carrying that all day on the inclines, the declines, the rocky steps, and we just wanted it to be lighter, lighter, lighter. And you were like, maybe I don't need two water bottles. Maybe I'll bring one. And I remember the day you told me, I was like, did you bring your Go Girl today? You were like, I've resolved that I'm not going to use it. And I just started laughing because there's not a lot of privacy moments on the Camino because there's
Nope.
always people around and you got to be okay with tucking back in a bush with possible poison ivy or whatever. And just the way you said it with such quiet, calm confidence. You're like, I've resolved, I'm not using it. And I was like, I don't think anything could change her mind. So we wound up like I kept my little one in there, never used it, but yeah, everything. It was kind of like with a boat sinking. Everything that could be thrown off was thrown overboard. We're like, nope, we don't need this, we don't need that, and trying to get those packs lighter since we're the pack mule for the day. So yeah, it's good. It's good to really think about what you want. Even you were like, do I bring one charging block or two? Because they're kind of heavy.
They are. The
Yeah,
one that
yeah.
charges my phone and the watch at the same time, that's the heaviest.
And so then we started going, well, how many miles are we walking? Because like a 6.5 mile, is different than a 12 mile or an 8.5 mile. And we'd be like, oh, 6.5 miles, we'll do that. We probably don't need the charger for that one or whatever, or one water bottle. And you kind of get super smart about that because, you just don't want to carry it all everywhere. It's heavy. So
Well, then
that,
sometimes you have to buy something to be able to use the restroom. So with water being so cheap to buy, that's usually the cheapest thing to buy.
because I was so paranoid about not having water that I was like, must bring water, must bring lots of water. And then you were like, we have to keep buying stuff every time. And I was like, oh, I hadn't not even put that together. And then you and I were taking turns buying pastries so we could split them. And we even split like an ice cream bar one time when we felt the cafe was a little sketch. Like, do we want to eat from something that was made here? So we bought a pre-wrap thing, which was like a frozen bomb pop or something, like a fudgesicle or something. And yeah, they do make you pay to use the bathroom, which is fair. It's their water and toilet paper if you're lucky enough to have it. And pretty much we gave up on paper towels quickly, and they just don't exist.
Yeah.
But if I owned one and I had, hundreds and hundreds of people going through the day through it, I probably wouldn't replace the paper towels either. But so now we'll move into the thoughts that we had on the tours we took. So you and I did a couple little splurges, and we booked some tours ahead of time through a booking company, and then took one very spontaneous one, like literally let the guy talk us into it on the side of the road.
I think that took
So,
like 20 minutes to talk us into.
oh my gosh, he was working so hard and he was so nice and patient. And you and I think part of it was you had so graciously like written out an itinerary for us to like do a walking tour on our own. And so we were kind of like, do we want to change all that up? And I think also you and I had kind of hit a point of we were out of decision making strength. Like we were just like, could someone just walk up and tell us do it or don't do it? But he was selling it hard and he was so nice, and I'm glad that I'm glad we did it. Are you glad we did it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that was the Tuk Tuk tour in Lisbon, Lisboa, if you live there. I think I said that right. Um, and yeah, we were just walking along, and we were going to have to walk a very long way in the heat of the day with all the people across like railroad tracks, and it's just not super scenic. And this guy was sitting there with a tuk tuk, and he's like, I could show you everything. I give the best tours. And something inside me just kind of was like, okay, okay, you can drive me around on your three-wheeled moped, and that's fine. So he did a good job. He took us to see all the sights. He did what he said he was going to do. But the other two we planned. Which one would you like to talk about first?
Well, the first one we planned was in Porto, and that was the Tuk Tuk tour there. We did plan that one.
Yep.
And, we discovered we may need to do a little fact check on some of the stuff he said.
We're calling it the local perspective.
Yes. But I mean, he was super nice and he didn't believe in brakes a lot. And
Breaking the tuk tuk, not stopping and resting.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, every time we went down a steep decline, he would say, "No handbrakes, no foot brakes." We were like, "Not funny." And on their ancient cobblestone paths, well, I think we got minor whiplash, but it was fun. Well, the first guy, remember the first tuk tuk guy came up, and we're like, "Is this him?" And he's looking at us, we're looking at him, and being two women by ourselves, we're not going to give away information out of safety. And so he's like, "Are you here for tuk tuk?" And we're like, "Maybe." Are you here to pick someone up? And he was like, "What's your name?" We're like, "Well, what's the
You
name you
tell
have?"
us.
I think and now that we've been there, it feels a little ridiculous, but safety first. I mean, we make no apologies for that. And so he's just like, he finally said your name, and we're like, "Okay, yes, that's game's up, that's us." And he's like, "I'm actually not your tour guide. It's my friend that's coming next." We're like, "Oh, okay." So the next guy came, and that was the guy that gave us a local perspective on some things that maybe or maybe not were 100 historically accurate. But he was so nice. He really was. I liked him. I thought he was fun.
Oh, yeah. He gave a great tour. I mean, then he took us to the other side of Porto. I've already forgotten what that's called over there, the other side of the river.
They told us about the bridges, and I think what he was really good about was telling us about how the community vibe is there, like what's it like to live there. And I really appreciated that, because we had a tour guide later on a different tour that gave us amazing history of all of it, which I thought was very all inclusive. But I liked this guy. It was kind of like you were hanging out with a friend, just kind of bombing
Hmm.
around that night, just kind of hanging out with a friend, and very relaxed and nice. And I don't know, I found it to be quite enjoyable. And he's a 20 something, I think, like a late 20 something. And I felt like I kind of saw Porto through his eyes, and I liked that. I didn't want to see it through mine as an American traveler. I wanted to see it through his, and I think that's what he did. Yeah. And then we took the big all day one on the suspension bridge.
That was my favorite. That was that day, neither one of us knew it was going to last all day.
Nope.
I thought it was going to be through like at 2 in the afternoon, then we'd have the rest of the day. But no, it lasted, but it was so worth it. There was, yes, it was, that was by far the best tour.
Did you know we were going to do this? And you're like, nope. So what we thought we were getting was this suspension bridge where you have to drive an hour and a half outside of Porto, and you walk across the world's second longest suspension bridge, and then you have to walk back because if you go over, you got to come back. And then we would descend down eternally long staircases, which are kind of famous. And then our ride would pick us up. That's what I thought was going to happen. That's really, truly all. And we get there, and he's talking about this day we're going to have. And you and I are like, huh? Are we in the right van? But oh, let's back up real quick because in the morning, we checked our app for the booking service, and it said to meet at this one place. And then so,
Yes.
at first it said it would pick us up at the hotel. So we're like, this is awesome. But the whole time I'm going, really? How can they pick us up at the hotel at 8 a.m. sharp when they're telling everyone else that at other hotels? How can you be all these places at once? So the whole thing confused me, but I was like, it clearly says it's going to be here. So you and I stood around for like 10 minutes, and then you checked your email, and they're like, oh, location change. And we're like, what? So,
Disregard all other emails.
and all of a sudden we're both like, our stomachs just went in our throats. We're like, oh, because this is a day where you have to be at certain points at certain times for reservations. So it's like, it's not like, they're just rigid. It's like, you have to be where you have to be when you have to be there. So we look at this and we're like, okay, it's a 13-minute walk. All right, we still have time. So you and I just take off. We let Google guide us, and we picked the nearest landmark to the meeting spot, which is basically on a street. And the landmark took us in the opposite direction of where we were supposed to go. And we get there, it says you've arrived, and we're looking around like, no, we haven't. So we recalculate, and we're like, are you kidding me? We just ran uphill the equivalent of probably like 5 city blocks first thing in the morning and in the wrong direction.
After a
And
full blown
uh,
breakfast.
everything was sloshing in our guts, just everything. And so what do? We start running back down, and we're trying not to slip because they use limestone for their cobblestone over there on the sidewalks, and it had the morning dew on it and made it slippery. And you and I are like, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, because now we're going downhill and we're running, and we get basically back to where we started at this intersection, and then we're like, keep going. And so at that point, I sent a message to the guide, and I said, we're coming. We got a little lost. We're coming. And he called me, and I remember I was frantic. I was out of breath. I knew the other tour people in our group were waiting on us. We don't like to be late for things. We were very flustered. And I remember out of breath, and I was like, don't leave, because I didn't know if there'd be a language barrier. And I didn't want to be like, hey, if you don't mind, please wait for us. I was like, too many words, too many words. I was just like, don't leave, we're coming. So we show up and we see the silver van, and we're like, that's got to be it. And we're just huffing and puffing. And graciously, they let us sit in the front for motion sickness reasons. And that helped to have the air shooting on me to kind of like recalibrate everything. So thankful that he did not leave. But then we set off on this hour and a half. So we get to the bridge, and I got in trouble twice, which I don't ever get in trouble. I'm a rule follower. But we're talking that the girl is explaining quite a bit. First, she does it all in Portuguese, and then she does it all in English about how you're going to walk across the bridge. And in the meantime, I start hearing these cowbells. And at that point, we had so delightfully seen so many herds of cows, it wasn't a big shock. But you pointed over my shoulder. I'm going to totally blame you for this. And I look over my shoulder, and it's goats. And I'm like, we haven't seen or heard goats yet. So my attention went totally, and I actually started taking pictures. And finally she's like, excuse me? And I was like, oh, sorry, I am listening. I'm multitasking. I was like, I'm a good multitasker. So I got in trouble for not listening about the rules. And do you remember what some of the rules were that they said?
Well, you couldn't lie down on the bridge. You, uh, yeah, you can't sit because they would send medical help. I think that was the basic rules.
Yeah, things like no running or jumping. I think that kind of did need to be told to a group of adults, but liability, I know. Yeah, because it's a metal bridge that's see through in the bottom, and she's like, we have people that get into distress out there because it is the world's second longest suspension bridge, and she's talking about how the cables are attached to the mountains and how thick the cables are, and two in our group that we didn't know at that point are afraid of heights, and one of them is about in tears, and I was like, oh no. And so she said, like, they all have to wear red jackets. They're kind of like the Baywatch of suspension bridges because they're all got the bright red, like, safety red jackets on. And they're like, yeah, if you stop or sit down or lay down, that's going to be to us a sign that you're having an issue, and we're all going to come right out and save you. And I was like, oh, that would be a spectacle if you weren't needing to be saved. You're just like, she says, some people sit down because they want to get like just the right angle for a picture. She's like, don't do that. And I was like, that would have probably been me. So thank you for saying that. But once I got in trouble for looking at the goats and distracting everyone else with them, yeah, we got to head across, and you and I are not afraid of heights, so we just loved every second of it.
Yes, and then we took too long.
We did take those the second time we got in trouble. I was the lollygagger, the very back. Even the dad from Southern California that was there with his wife and twin 15-year-olds, he was not going to go. The wife kind of caught up to us, and she was like, he's not doing it. And I was like, oh man. And the next thing you know, I see him pass me. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. So I'm asking the girl in the red jacket, hey, can you take a selfie with me? And she's like, so nice about it. She's like, can we just kind of hurry up because everyone's waiting, and I'm responsible for the whole group, and I just took too long taking pictures. There are waterfalls and rivers. It was beautiful.
Well, I
Sorry,
hadn't
not
thought
sorry.
about it because everything's a timed entry, so I guess there were other groups.
There were. So she's shuffling us off, and she's like, you can, because I said I want to get a picture with Michelle without like a lot of people on the bridge if we can get that. She's like, can you do it on the way back? And I said, okay. So we get it all the way across, and our group of six is waiting for us, and they're all like, hey, glad you could join us. We're like, sorry. So we let everyone else go back, and we were the last, so we could get the shots that we wanted, and it all worked out. But I felt a little high maintenance and bad about that. I get a little carried in photography. I do. I know. But we got our pictures, so I was just like, we may never be here in this moment in time ever again. We should just enjoy it. So we did. But then we descended down the stairs, and we thought, okay, where's the van? And no, it was a 2-hour river hike.
Yes, I was not expecting that.
It was glorious. It was beautiful. Do you remember what was on the other side of the river that got me all excited?
Goats and dogs.
First time we'd ever seen, I don't know if you call them a flock or a herd, I don't really know, of goats that were being shepherded by dogs, not people. And it was a German shepherd and then like a mixed medium-sized mutt dog. And yeah, they were herding the goats all by themselves. I guess the farmers trained them and to do the whole like daily route. It was the same goats that distracted me in the beginning. And that was fascinating. And we got to do this really cool river walk that we had no idea we were going to do. And, not to boast or anything, but our group of 8 came in 10 minutes faster than his other tour group. So, there's that. But we got very excited about that. It was a beautiful day. When we started out, remember the fog? You like couldn't see the hand in front of your face. And I thought, okay, not going to see much on the bridge because you can't even see past the headlights. But I mean, the further out we got, it just in the time went on because it was an hour and a half drive. I mean, like the sky just completely cleared up. You couldn't have asked for a better day. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. And he met us halfway and he's like, "Everybody okay? Does anyone want to ride the rest of the way?" We're like, "No, we're fine." Took a little potty break there and got some cold water and kept walking. And we all eight of us were like, "Did you know this was going to be this?" And everyone's like, "Nope." So it felt better that it wasn't just us that were pleasantly confused, like not real sure what's happening, but I'm gonna go with it. So yeah, we got to finish that, and then we got to go to lunch. That was our next stop.
Thanks again for listening to Real Deep Stuff. Follow us and subscribe to save your seat at the table for the next conversation. Also, check out our Facebook page to continue the conversation on today's topic. We'll see you there.